ground is so soggy. God. Lots of pollen going in. It's about 12 degrees. I wonder how the bees at Dad's are doing.
Oh,
Look, your windows are absolutely filthy.
Yeah, trying to get hay off of mine.
He's making his nest.
Yeah, nesting.
Nest building.
Yeah.
See if we can get a better shot of him. Her. Him, her.
I wonder what I was smashing about for. Yeah, so that's it.
Building nests. Oh, how sweet is that?
Nice bundle there. Where's he going to go? Or where's she going to go?
Hello. Oh. That's a he.
Oh,
That's a boy.
Yeah. That's the boy.
Oh, he's gone up above the veranda somewhere.
Oh, he's gone over there now into the tree.
Oh.
On the left.
Your windows are filthy. Look at that.
Dirty,
Good God.
Yeah.
Need a cup of tea, Dad?
Yeah, okay, well, I'll get onto that then.
Well, I'm going to go outside and check the... Look at it. Oh, Christ. Well, it's Saturday the 14th of March. And although it's 13 degrees, 12, 13 degrees Celsius, it's raining. It wasn't raining when I was driving over here. Typical March. So I was going to see if I could film bees coming in and out, but there ain't going to be much going on if the weather's like this. Ugh. Yeah, it's a bit pants, isn't it? This video is my thoughts on the CV-19 virus and its potential effects on beekeepers. Now, I live in the UK, so my situation is that most of my hives are at my dad's house in his garden. He's got a bigger garden than I have. I've got 6 hives here and 1 hive in my own garden. In the UK, we're now in the delay stage, and apparently we're 4 weeks behind what we're seeing in Italy, and we are to contain ourselves in our abodes if we come down with any infections and self-isolate ourselves. My concerns as to how this affects beekeeping, it's possibly going to affect my practice at Dad's house, because I don't want to expose him to any problems that I may be having health-wise. How old are you, Dad?
That's a sparrow. I'll be 84 in June.
Right, 84 in June.
Yeah.
Now, it's all very well at the start of the season. Bee colonies are building up. When we get to April, May and June, that's when the government are predicting the peak of the CV-19 virus hitting us in the UK. And that essentially is, as we know, when we beekeepers need to kind of monitor our colonies more. We tend to visit our hives every week when we can. Those that aren't retired and go to work during the week usually only get to see our bees at the weekend. According to the weatherman, this cold, wet weather we're still experiencing is going to start apparently warming up. We're going to have some high pressure over the UK from Monday onwards. It's going to start getting better. It's going to improve. I've already noticed dandelions out in the the verges next to the roads coming up to Dad's. And if the dandelions are out and it's t-shirt weather, in the UK that means you can crack your bees open and have a proper look. Have that first inspection, that all important first inspection, just to check that you've got a queen, she's laying, there's no brood disease, see whether they need any extra stores, if they're short on anything, etc, etc. I've got a big brolly. Right, okay, let me switch you round. Some bees going into a really strong hive that we saw last weekend when I was here. How is CV-19 virus and the fact that people may have to lock themselves away for a while? And we're looking at what the rest of this month, March into April, May, June, could be looking at a peak at that time. Things like training apiaries, local, your local Beekeepers Association apiaries that are up and running. Often you'll get them open at weekends, offering classes, and they'll usually have, the apiary will have their own training colonies that new beekeepers can learn on and work with. I'm just wondering how they're going to manage training and classes, whether it will still be able to go ahead or if it will be a complete lockdown, a shutdown. What sort of measures do your local beekeeping associations and clubs have for combating the spread of infection? And it's not something I've heard a great deal of beekeepers discuss or talk about, either here in the UK or over in the States. I know in the States there's a lot more, seems to be a lot more bee wrangling going on, and American beekeepers can be very blessed with huge tracts of land and property that's they can put hives on and big enough to be able to afford the bees lots of space. Got some lovely frog spawn here, and here we have a little bee coming to get some water. Birds are making their nests. Nature continues as normal. Nature continues as normal all around us, and we are in a situation where we're confused as to what's going on. I mean, worried for our families and our older relatives. Yes, so I know the UK British Beekeeping Spring Convention is taking place in a matter of about 3 weeks or so. It's on the 3rd, 4th and 5th of April. I've never been to it myself. Something I'm going to have to do. I know that Tom Seeley was supposed to be coming and giving some lectures, but as I understand it, he's obviously not able to travel over to the UK. But he will be recording his lectures. I was thinking about, well, how do I manage my colonies in light of the fact that I may not be able to see my colonies and open them up and inspect them as usual? How is that going to have a knock-on effect, not just for me but for all beekeepers in the UK? Now, it's not quite so bad if all your colonies are in your garden. In fact, it's not a problem at all, but obviously for me it's problematic because my dad is in his 80s. During the peak of the outbreak here in the UK, also kind of is timed well with the the time when the bees may well be thinking of swarming and having that swarming instinct. April through to June, that key moment where colonies sometimes decide to go ahead and divide themselves. So I was kind of thinking, as you do late at night before you go to bed, well, what am I going to do? How am I going to tackle that? This time of year you can split your colonies if they're too strong, or take the queen out of the colony and put her in a nuke box and make the bees think that she's swarmed, and then they'll go into queen making mode, and I was thinking, oh well, maybe I could get the queens out of the colonies and bring the queens over to my garden in nukes, and then let the bees that are left here at Dad's go into queen making mode. But then I thought, well, that's all very well, but if I do that and I'm not able to inspect the colonies during their queen making time, if I'm not able to inspect my colonies if they are busy making queens and replacing the queens that I've taken out, then I could have dozens of queen cells in each and every colony. And if I'm not able to get here and inspect my colonies, that's going to cause a whole load of swarms. A whole load of swarms, more so than normal, getting out into the surrounding gardens and neighbourhoods. Bad enough when you lose a swarm to Mother Nature and you've not been able to either manage it or prevent it from happening. If it's, in my case, 6 times worse, that doesn't really solve the problem. No doubt I'm stressing too much about the bees. We all stress out too much about our bees, don't we? It's very easy to feel overwhelmed. Luckily, I don't need to walk through the house in order to get into the garden. There is a side entrance. So if worst case scenario happens and Dad is ill or I'm ill, if I'm ill, I'm obviously going to have to stay at home because I don't want to transfer any nasty viruses to him. Anyway, so my point is, if there's a lockdown and we're all meant to be working from home, by taking the queen out and removing her and bringing her to my garden and letting the bees re-queen themselves is all very well, but that still doesn't solve the problem of the inevitable swarm cells that you're going to end up producing in doing that. So I thought, well, okay, I think the best plan of action is just to keep to my schedule of weekly visits on a Saturday. I can't promise anything. I drive here, I don't see anyone other than Dad, and if he's ill, at least there is a visit from me to bring supplies if needed. If he needs food or milk or whatever, medicine, if he does fall ill, touch wood, he'll be okay. My general intention is to come and see my bees every week, every weekend, if I can. Anyway, I wish everybody all the best of health in the coming weeks. Hope the weather treats you well. Look after all your family. Stay safe. God bless everybody, and it's going to be an interesting year.